covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Kyleman and Jim Mernier.
I don't know if they're going to be in my top two anymore. They actually, they're not. Just putting it out there. They're not. No offense. No offense. But they do tumble a little bit here.
So you're saying power ranking time?
I think it's power ranking time. First one of the year, Jim.
Yeah. So this is week 1 power rankings from the official podcast of the National Arena League.
That's right.
So let's start off with our favorite 6th place. Unfortunately, there's only 6 teams in our league, so someone has to be the 6th team.
Right.
And I'm just going to tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, mine hasn't changed a bit. I still think it's San Antonio, but here's the reason why that I still have San Antonio. Look at every team in the National Arena League right now. Excuse me, but sorry, I had to pull up I know it's screen flash. Sorry
well, it is what it is, you know.
I had to pull up my notes, so I know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to be a person that goes, I will read anything that I don't know and think I know. No, that's not going to be me. The reason why I have San Antonio as number 6, it's the arena game is unique. You go, you ride, and you die by your quarterback. Is your quarterback legit enough to carry you to that scale? And me and Zach have had our rankings based on overall rosters. And overall rosters right now, based on what's in San Antonio for their players. I'm just going to tell you, fans of San Antonio, still, a lot of National Arena League teams, even teams in your own league, still don't know your roster, still can't put, one person to one person. They don't understand or they have no familiarity with your team.
Right.
That's going to come with me too. And at 6, you ride and die with your quarterback. I look at the National Arena League and all the quarterbacks around the league. I don't want to say it, but I have no past experience of your guys right now. I know Cody Brooks may be watching us. He's a future guest of our show. He's a damn good player. I've seen some highlight films. There are some guys on that team that are dominant that can be, but that's towards lower league competition. It's not the National Arena League. It's a big uptick in competition. So right now, based on my overall experience with San Antonio, that might change next week, ladies and gentlemen. That ranking might change instantly next weekend.
Of course.
But right now, my number 16 is the San Antonio Gunslingers because of the, not the notoriety, just we just don't know who they are yet. And usually if you had David Pindell at number 1 and you had Philip Barnett, number 2, as your wide receiver, that ranking could have changed because David Pindell is a legit good quarterback in the arena game. But right now, I got San Antonio at number 6.
Well, that's basically it. Same deal for me. I've had him at 6 for a while. It's just I need to see more. And I'll even add more now that with some of the roster rotation that's happened in this recent week, that just adds a little more to my uncertainty on what I'm going to get, which is why I can't put in confidence that they are better than Orlando. I see guys like Cody Brooks, Joey Fisher, I know talks a lot about how this team's heart is. And I shout out to him, of course, on this show. And he definitely represents, San Antonio and what they want to do from the looks of it. I just need to see that come on the field in what is definitely higher league competition. So we're going to have to wait and see. Orlando is a decent enough test, in my opinion, as we have talked very much at length on this show. Defensively, they're very stout on paper. Offensively, they got the outside weapons. Our main question has always been quarterback. So a good litmus test kind of, I think, place to see where you're at in the NAL, which which number 5 on our list, funny enough, is who I just mentioned right there anyway. That's going to be Orlando. And I left the part of this for this main reason. Quarterback scenario, we did see EJ Hilliard. He is now off to another league after originally signing on with Orlando. Refused to report for various reasons that could be speculated, but I'll leave that alone. And so now you have Rakeem Cato or you have Connor Kagi, who both have been in the arena scene. Obviously Kagi most recently with the Sharks. Cato has been in a different league before coming over to the NAL. So that's the wild card, is who do we get starting week 1 and who's going to be thrown to these guys? Because they have the weapons on the outside. Even with Paris Mack leaving, you got people to throw to. Darren Clark, Lonnie Outlaw and company. You have places that you can throw it up to. Question is, can you accurately throw it up to these guys? We'll find out. That's the only thing, because the top 4 guys above you, even with, Mason leaving, we know the guy coming in for Columbus has had success in the NAL. So that is there for you. That's why I got him at 5 for me.
Number 5 is going to be no shockers, same as the Orlando Predators. And I'm going to just tell you right now, the separation between number 5 and number 6 in my ranking, if you look at overall standings, it's about 2 games.
Okay.
I think I or San Antonio fans, yeah, Jim tax us. Oh, my bad. I think I think San Antonio's 3-9 this year. Honestly, how their schedule's set up, it just is so difficult to them. They can't really sustain a home presence early. Then they're on the bye weeks and they're on 3-game road trip, so they're away from their building for 6 weeks. That's going to get to a team.
That's a long stretch.
So yeah, it is a long stretch, and that means I have Orlando around 5-7, toying with that 6-6 mark, and especially in our league, 6-6 might get you in this year. Last year 3-6 got you, or 3-5 got you last year because of the shortened season. The reason why I have Orlando number 5 is that I'm kind of, from the people we've talked to about certain players that refuse to report on the transaction wire and now find out why they are, and knowing that they will be back in time to play a significant amount of time in the National Arena League, like this case, Devin Maxwell, a guy who is a former guest on the show a couple of months ago. Orlando, Jeff Higgins, that receiving core down there, very underrated. And the only thing that puts them at number 5, except for number 4, is the quarterback situation. You got 2 guys getting introduced to a new new system. Connor Kagi did play for the Jacksonville Sharks last year, but you're going to Orlando. You're playing with under Jeff Higgins. You're playing under a different type of, I don't know how the offensive playbook is, but it's different. It's going to be a lot of issues. But one thing that we know about Orlando last year is that their defense was very, very good.
Yes.
And when their defense was good, what hurt them last year was their offense halfway through the year. Then they found themselves, and then they beat up on the Carolina, and they beat up on the Sharks and the Jersey Flight to get in at the 500 record last year. I got them at number 5 this year, and I think they're going to toy with that 500 record again because they have a lot of road games and bad times of their schedule where they'll go from at Jacksonville, then they're home against Albany, then they're at Jacksonville again. That's a tough stretch. I don't think that's completely accurate. I need to look at schedule again, but they have a stretch where it's like, oof, like they need to find a way to get early wins in their schedule because that the meat of that schedule is going to be pretty effective. But I got Orlando number 5, but they're a lot closer to the number 4 team than they are the number 6 team, in my opinion, my power ranking. Do you want me to go to my number 4?
Yeah, let's just do zigzag. Okay. I mean, why not keep that pattern going on, shall we?
This team did a big fall in my ranking, and that is the Columbus Lions. And it's because of Greg Peterson. It's because of Lockett. It's also because of the MVP quarterback not returning, Mason Espinoza. Still all the love, Mason. We're still thank you for the support. Thank you for making us get to this point, our show.
Absolutely.
But one thing about Columbus, I stated before on the podcast, and what I've stated multiple times on multiple shows, Gibson, that ownership group, they know how to win games when it matters, and they're always in the postseason, no matter what. I have them at number 4 because there's almost that saying, prove it to me, then I'll pick you. For Columbus, I'm keeping them in the playoff picture until they show me that they can't make the playoffs. And that's going to be pretty hard to do, especially with Coach Gibson, that organization. They do have Darren Daniels that's coming in, who has experience in 2017 Lions. They still have Jermon Fortson, the second all-time leading receiver in the National Arena League. And they still have Desmond Reese, the Loach. They have a squad. That's not – they lost the guy. They may have lost their kicker. But still, they have a good enough squad. I still think right now, because of how the schedule is, if they started with Jacksonville like week 2, maybe they'd be more prepared for it. I think Jacksonville's a buzzsaw for them to start off the season because of this massive switch they got to do right off the bat. For number 4, I got the Columbus Lions, and again, prove to me that you can't make the playoffs. And right then, the lowest they'll be in my power rankings is number 4, unless situations happen later in the year that we have to put them down further in power rankings. For me, I have them at number 4.
Yeah, they're 4 for me too. They were originally my 2 for the preseason polls. And you know, I am newer to the NAL, of course. I've heard good things about Darren Daniel. So that's great to have a pivot to go to somebody that's reliable, has had success. Mason, though, has been on another level. He really was the guy that, you know, even with some of the roster changes, some guys going to other places, you know, I had to put him at 2 just for the fact he's on there. Nonetheless, I still see the Columbus Lions as a playoff team. I do see with the talent on here, and just the fact, again, Jason Gibson, I mean, the guy has he just gets his players ready. You know, this is a dude that really gets the best out of his teams for what Columbus gives him, and he makes it work. He consistently has made it successful for that fan base to watch teams year after year after year. So, when Jim's mentioning, of course, you have guys like, of course, a Forston, they picked up Patrick Macon, like I said, that I'm excited for, Rodney Hall, of course, being there too. They have talents that they can go and compete with it. And, Gabeson having experience in Ironman, again, something we're watching out for a lot this season with how coaches adapt to the new rules. That's going to be key to play. So you have a little bit of advantage there too, going in. They're a playoff team. I think you're going to see them and Orlando throughout the year competing for that 4th spot. Just because I think the top 3 we're determining are kind of another step above the bottom 3, but it's going to be at least a dogfight to see who gets that final spot and at least gets to be honored in that first round matchup for whoever it is at the top.
And what's unique is that both Orlando and Columbus play each other the final week of the season in Columbus. So that could come
be a
down,
deciding game.
That could be a deciding game, because I have right now Columbus at 6-6 and Orlando at 5-7, with that last game being a determining factor who gets in the postseason. But yeah, that's me. So
right. Yeah. Now I'm going to be honest with you. The top 3, I'm going to see if we keep matching up like this, because here's what I've got. Number 3 for me is Jacksonville. I'm going to put it down there right now. Now, part of this comes into how we've learned about how the QB system is going to work this year. So, of course, we know Warren Smith, first few weeks of the season. Malik Henry, again, very talented quarterback who's been around other indoor leagues in recent years. I want to see how he adapts to a pure arena system. As we know with others outside of the NAL, you have to be more running. You have to be more elusive. It's less on pure outdoor elements and more on, you need to be a good passer. You need to be able to move the pocket. So, and get the ball out quickly, mind you, too. Scramblability doesn't always save you in arena football. So keeping that in mind, that's the stuff I'm going to be watching out for. Otherwise, I mean, he's got a good supporting staff around him. Of course, you got Kenny on the defensive side. You got Kenny Veal, of course. Offensively, you got Devin Wilson to throw it up to, along with other cast of characters too. It's Jacksonville. They're pivoting. They are readying themselves to get back into the playoff hunt, as Jim has very much talked to me, and I know this very well. That's an organization that does not accept failure. It's a big organization with a crowd that also is very vocal because of the fact it's so supportive in that city. They've set themselves up to be a playoff team. I'm just thinking, though, and I keep looking at Carolina, which you can kind of get what I'm talking about. Like Carolina, Albany alone, like, with Ironman rules, your rotations can be scary and can continue to keep pace. I think Jacksonville is able to sneak some games. I think they could steal one from a Carolina or an Albany, possibly. I mean, they did last year from Albany, for Christ's sake, one of the best games of the year.
Well, Jacksonville has 4 chances to.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, go figure. The schedules, which is why you see like an 8-6 or like a 9-5. You can even put it at. For these guys, still a fascinating piece to watch out for in terms of standings. But yeah, I got them at a 3. It really comes down to how they adjust with the QB system and how good Malik Henry is in an altered version of the 50-yard game, aka arena style in this sense?
Well, my number 3 team, I think our rankings are all equal this time.
Oh my God.
Number 3 is the Jacksonville Sharks for me.
Oh man.
And it just the reason why but I like to put the standings. I look at the schedule, and I have a computer program that simulates the season.
Yes.
And every single majority of the simulations always had Carolina, Jacksonville. That's 2 and 3, and Albany was always the one, which few of them had them as number 6, which was odd. But for overall, one thing about the Jacksonville Sharks that as a fan, as people who are listening to this podcast or watching us today, Jacksonville had a season last year that is very rare. No, we're not talking about the Jaguars. That's very common with the Jaguars, but not with the Sharks. I know some people within the organization that have talked to people outside the organization. This offseason, their main goal was to make the playoffs. They actually put a squad around them that basically they have to fall flat on their face to miss. They have a squad that's good, and they're led by a great guy in Devin Wilson. Warren Smith, as we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, we know that what's going on in that situation. But if Malik Henry plays like he did in that playoff run from the other league last season, I think Jacksonville will be a benefit. But Jacksonville's that type of team that might be that third seed. They got in their third seed, but they're that third seed, in my opinion, that you don't want to play in the playoffs, because I believe because of the second half of the schedule, how Jacksonville's schedule set up, they can go in the postseason on a hot streak if everything's right with Warren Smith and Malik Henry on the roster. So watch out, Carolina. I think that'd be an interesting first round matchup in the 2022 playoffs if that even happens. But yeah, I have Jacksonville at number 3. But the reason why I have Jacksonville number 3 is Coach Burley, the championship coach coming back with the organization that he led in 2019. And I think because of his experience in the Ironman game and the experience with the city of Jacksonville, that Coach Fuller didn't kind of know how to operate, but didn't know how to orchestrate, you could say.
Okay.
I think Burley is a good mentor for Malik. He doesn't need to be a mentor towards Warren Smith. Warren Smith is a vet. He knows what he's doing. And a lot of, like we've heard around the community, Last Chance U, Malik Henry, what's the situation? Is he going to be the hot shot he was in Last Chance U, or is he going to be that more matured quarterback that he was in the other league last year? If you get that playoff, Henry, that 4 or 5 week span that when Warren Smith is up in Jersey finishing his teaching, Jacksonville will be a good position. And the good thing about Jacksonville, that little stretch right there, there's some mixture of winnable games, and there's some mixture of games you go, well, I don't think so. Now with the news in Columbus, you have a little bit more mixture of that type of winnable games.
Oh yeah.
In that situation. But Jacksonville's situation is going to be, can they survive a 14-week season with no bye week, and be one of the playoff teams? Because that'd be another intriguing factor if Jacksonville and Carolina meet each other in the playoffs, because they'll be going 15 weeks straight without a bye week.
That's the thing. I mean, I mentioned, of course, the extra games with just the standings, but I know some people, some people want to have that consistent, energy and consistent game and consistent flow week in, week out. That's fine. But I also think especially with how aggressive arena can be, I mean, we're talking the turf, we're talking the walls, for some position players, specifically receivers alone, you need that rest. You really need to have some time off. So we'll see. I mean, again, this came down to, of course, some scheduling between this team or between the Jacksonville Sharks and the Cobras on terms of tickets. So it is what it is. But they are technically, in a way, you could think could be penalized for that. So keeping that in mind.
So my number 2 team, not shocked, Carolina Cobras. I think their roster, I don't know. I don't care what people say up in Albany. They have a roster that matches yours person by person. Mike Faithful and Jonathan Bain are 2 damn good quarterbacks. Jonathan Bain and Faithful played in Jacksonville together. So I experienced how good both they are. But you look at that roster in Carolina, that receiving core with Kendrick Ings, James Summers, and DJ Myers, with Jonathan Bain and Zach Brown as the fullback. Their defense, with Bijan Robinson, their kicker, TC Stevens, they have all the weapons. I just want to say to the Carolina, I got you at number 2 to start the season. You better host a playoff game. You have that roster. Your goal, challenge from me to you, Coach Rez, is win the number 1 overall seed. Let everybody go to Carolina and kind of, tell the boys up in Albany, simmer down a little bit. But I think, honestly, Carolina, I've been high on Carolina this whole offseason. I still think they're one. I think they literally have a roster that can match toe-to-toe with the Albany Empire. Of course, situations can happen in the season with the injuries or whatever that could change the whole narrative. But as of right now, entering week 1, I think they have a roster that equals the Albany Empire, and they'll be challenging Albany for home field advantage this season, in my opinion.
That is a very valid point. The more I look at Carolina, the more I go, man, they really do have a loaded, group of at least core of guys you can go in with that 21-man lineup going into game day. And the thing is, you have depth you can rotate out with when needed. So like, that's got me scared of them,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be honest with you. It's kind of tough for me to say is I still have them slightly at 2. And I'm just gonna, and it's like, it's not even, and you're talking the same thing with me. It's like a half step below Albany. Just that roster of guys. I mean, just go on online, check out their website. It is it's name after name after name of NAL first teams, NAL, certain player of the year nominations from all years of the league's existence right so far. I mean, we're talking folks from like Bijan Robinson and Savante Davenport. You got, of course, guys from last year that did great, like DJ Myers, who came out of nowhere. We thought he'd go back to Orlando. He's over there in Carolina now. Coach Rez is signing on some good talent, continuing what he did at the end of last season to make that playoff run. And they're just keeping the train rolling with getting people in there to Carolina. They're saying, look, we tasted victory in 2018. Let's get back to the mountaintop once again. And they're kind of looking like they will be. And I'll say it right now, like you, they're looking like my team that's going to be either hosting or they're going to be going to Albany to take on the Empire this year. That's as simple as that, because number 1 for me, and again, that half step is the Albany Empire. And it's just because, look, both these rosters are stacked. But again, Mike Faithful can sling it just like Jonathan Bain. But look at the people he's got around him. You got Antoine Grant, Darius Prince lining up on the outsides. Grant's gonna be still is listed as playing, that linebacker receiver, matchup right there. So he's gonna be a lengthy guy playing in the back. Dwayne Hollis is anchoring as one of the defensive backs. They brought Kenneth Magruder back, surprise guy, one of the best stories in the NAL last year, who just dominated in the secondary for him. I mean, I can keep going on, like Jared Dangerfield as well. You got Brandon Cisse, of course, up there in captain, very rounded squad. Nick Hagg as well. Yeah. There's good talents there. Their backup is Sam Castro, for Christ's sake, who, was starting for Carolina last year. Like, they have depth too. Yeah. And I think it's really tight at the top too. I think Jacksonville like I said, they can steal some games, but, Carolina and Albany basically set out to either say, for Albany's case, we're repeating again with more full crowds this year. Because trust me, if you look at the ticket sales with Albany for their home opener, it's going to be a nice crowd. They're filling in that stadium thanks to, no restrictions now. And it's nice to see. Carolina, for that case, they're just want to get back to the mountaintop, and they put everyone back. They basically pushed their chips back in at the center of the table and said, 2019 or 2018 result alone, we're at least getting back to the NAL championship. We got the roster to do that.
And again, my number 1, not shocked, same as yours, same sentiment as you. But one of the key factors of the reason why number 1 is Coach Rez. Yes, whatever he does in Carolina is great. He's a good guy. He's a friend of the show, future guest again on the show. One thing that Manas has over Coach Rez is he has, in my opinion, it's recency bias, by the way. Sure. He is a defending champion, and he is a championship caliber coach. And Coach Rez has a great history. I don't know. He may correct me with this. I don't think he won a championship in arena level, but he's been with some great organizations. I know he was with Carolina. He won a championship with Carolina. What am I talking about?
He was because he would be the defensive coordinator at that point.
Yeah, he was a DC. Coach Rez, on my apologies. Like, scrap that.
Yeah, DM incoming after the show.
Yeah,
just let you guys know.
Jim, what the heck, Jim? My bad. Sorry, Coach. But yeah, this is going to be the first time that Coach Rez, I think, has a championship caliber team, and I think he's going to run into the Goliath that is the Albany Empire and Coach Manas. And one thing I've listened to a lot of shows, I've talked to a lot of coaches and people associated with the league. Manas is a legit guy. He's a good guy, a family guy, and he knows how to win. And won championship in Albany year one. The fans in Albany accepted him, and you look at the ticket sales for the first game against Carolina, it's starting to show. But you go look at all these teams, look at their coaches. All these coaches have some type of experience in indoor or in the Ironman game, but only a few have championship backgrounds into them as coaches. And recency bias, I'm just going with Coach Manas right now, but because of their versus Carolina, they played each other last year in the playoff game, beat them, and I think they played them earlier. Oh, did they play them in the regular season? Yeah, early in the season, yes. I think last year, and beat them too. But it's a new year, 0-0. But yeah, I think Mike Faithful's legit. But one of the reasons why I love that receiving core in Carolina, Antoine Grant and Darius and Damian.
That's a scary setup.
I can't even pronounce the guy's name, and Commissioner Sickry was saying every single 5 seconds.
Prince and Grant, who Grant came in last year. Yeah. You know, I mean, look, as long as Grant stays healthy, that's the main thing that, you know, because we've seen not even just with Inside the Lines, the series, but, you know, us talking with other folks, as long as he stays healthy enough, which I imagine he's going to do his best. We talked to him. I know him. I've had him on other shows. Great guy. And I wish him well here. They're going to dominate outside. And look, even if he can't go, Jared Dangerfield's no slouch at that position. No. We're talking a guy that's an AFL talent as well, that's sitting on that sideline with everyone else. So
he played on the receiving core last year that was very overlooked. Dangerfield, Livinghouse, and Beavers. Like, come on, like,
I know, right? And geez, I forgot to mention all your Beavers in Orlando. That's on me, but yeah.
I still can't believe how Jersey wasn't a playoff team with that type of roster. That just tells you how the National Arena League game is.
It makes you wonder. It really does. I still think about it.
Yeah. And I know San Antonio fans out there get mad at us. Once we see you guys play, we'll start knowing your players' names and you'll be in the conversations of this. So your preseason 6 surprise us. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm just happy that the season is here. That's our official power rankings. I don't even have to do a graphic for both of us. We could just do a single power ranking right down.
Right.
So that'd be simple for me to do. And it's the season, ladies and gentlemen. These are power rankings. And one thing about power rankings in professional sports, they don't mean anything because you can make the playoffs. So top 4 teams, the season starts. Let's get going right now. Talk about week 1 action of the National Arena League.
Covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Kyleman and Jim Bernier.